webinar again on stopping the violence in America, which connotes guns. And as you know, that over the last couple of weeks, we are seeing almost like a pandemic of shootings, senseless violence going on. Also here on an international level where I am, got in South Africa, and first thing I heard was that there's someone that went into a bar or club. A lot of young people, or many of them were sneaking in that bar anyway, underage, and he indiscriminately just shot and killed 19. So there's a worldwide pandemic, but also America is plagued with so much violence, and especially centered on gun violence. And so every week we have this wonderful webinar to discuss what are some of the root causes, what should be some of the solutions, and how we can collectively, especially as religious leaders, the police force, political leaders, all to come together and find a resolution. And many times the resolution is not from just one angle. We're finding that there's a variety of angles that needs to be addressed in order to really get to the bottom of bringing some sort of resolve and reducing the senseless violent crime that we are all witnessing. It seems like it's just coming out of nowhere all of a sudden. So we thank you so much, everyone, for coming. But everyone that we have had so far has had interesting and very, I believe, concrete points to address some of the root causes of violence in America and throughout the world in general. But today, and so actually, like, just to conclude with this remark, is that's why we're coming together, not just to discuss, but find how we can collaboratively work together with all these different angles and insights in order to address this problem and try to make a sustainable difference in those areas of that are plaguing plaguing America. Today, we have another special guest that I know very well, and he's no stranger to any of us, and is Dr. Reverend Kenneth Alexander. Just give you a little bit about Dr. Kenneth Alexander. He has his master's degree in divinity. He earned his master's degree in divinity from Indiana Wesleyan University. He is the co-pastor of Jesus Save Lighthouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. In 2018, I believe, he began pursuing his doctorate of ministry degree at Indiana Wesleyan University, and currently finishing at the Unification Theological Seminary. Good luck and great job. In addition, Reverend Alexander is a successful business owner and founder of Alexander and Associate LLC since 2006. And what connects this webinar and what he also does is in 2009, he serves as the Chief Operating Officer for Workforce Inc. for 7 years, and currently is the Director of Training and Operation for a faith-based prison reentry social enterprise that serves men and women returning to their families from incarceration and leading them to self-sufficiency. God bless you. Welcome. Good to see you again. Last time I saw you we were in Washington, D.C., and we had the honor of having your presence at our conference. But we just want now to welcome Reverend Kenneth Alexander.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Oliver. It's nice seeing you. I know you're in Africa. I hope that you have a wonderful trip, and hope you have a safe return back home. Thank you for that introduction. And also, it was such a wonderful time that we had in Washington, D.C. I am still gleaming from that whole conference there. And thank you for telling a little bit about me. I want to add also that when we were in Washington, D.C., we had a lot of young people there. And I remember we wanted the young people to get an experience that maybe they have never had before, to get a little history. And I'll never forget a young man that came on stage, and he enlightened us. He enlightened us a lot. He said to us, I don't know if you remember this, Reverend Oliver, but he said to us, it's nice that you guys are wanting to connect with this generation. But I'm going to tell you something, he said. He said, many of us don't care. I jumped back and said, what? But he hit the nail on the head on one regard, because a lot of us want this station to get it together. We want to find out what is wrong with this generation, and we think we have the answers. I want to let you know that I go back over 30 years working with young people. We had a youth build program in the city of Indianapolis. And I never forget, it was during the time I was raising my son and my daughter. And at the time, my son was 15. And then I looked at one of the young men, and he said something to me. And I looked at him like he was my son, and I was about ready to grab him around the collar, because I was thinking that you don't talk to me like this, but I had to get a hold of myself. What we have to realize in this, what I call it a pandemic, and a major disconnect with young people, is that they are hurting. They are hurting tremendously. I've been in this work for over 30 years. I don't want to say how long, but I don't want to date myself, but I've been in the work for a long time. And the young people have a different language, and they want to be heard. And we've got to be able to listen to learn. So that young man in Washington, D.C., he didn't only tell us, but he also educated us on some of the ways that we can learn from them. We are at a crisis like we have never seen before in the United States and around the world. And it's hitting every country. And now we've got to find a way to connect. And we used to call them Generation X. But they're now X, Y, Z, and they're so disconnected. But we have to first realize that they are hurting and they want to be heard. Now, over the last 15 years, I work at an organization, as my bio may say, that we serve young men and women coming out of incarceration. And also we have a youth population between 18 and 24-year-olds. And we meet with them. And we have what is called listen to learn sessions. And one of the things I'm incorporating is structure. And we have about 30 young men and women between 18 and 24. So if anybody listening, we must create an atmosphere to where they can feel free to talk about the things that concern them the most. Now, the adults can have topics such as bullying in school, such as teenage love language, such as clothing, money, some of the things that they are concerned with. I currently have a young man that he just took up with me. He wants me to be his mentor. And this has been going on for about 6 weeks. And the young man wants to know that I care about him. And I know we all have the old cliche is nobody cares about how much you know until they know how much you care. We know we have a pandemic in every city in America. And now we have to let young people know that somebody cares about them, there was a ministry that was really nationwide that said that was called Teenager. Somebody cares. Somebody cares. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I must say that we all here in Indianapolis, Indiana is really experiencing shock. And I think a lot of people, when you turn on the evening news, we are suffering from shock. We've just experienced in our great city of Indianapolis a mass shooting, another mass shooting at Greenwood Park Mall. And you're hearing this echo all across the nation. An 18-year-old young man went into the mall, went into the bathroom with an assault weapon. And he was in the bathroom for over an hour, is what the media is saying. He put together an assault weapon. The young man came out of the bathroom and began shooting. He shot an innocent bystander and killed him. There was a married couple sitting in the food court eating a meal, bothering nobody. And within seconds, he shot them, killed 3 people and wounded 2 other people. However, there was another young man that was carrying a pistol legally. They identified him as a good Samaritan. They identified him as a legal gun owner. When this legal gun owner seen this shooting take place, he pulled out his gun. Now, this guy is 40 feet away, and he shoots the shooter. Fired 8 shots, 10 shots, and 8 of them hit the shooter, killing the shooter. And this is just not going on in Indianapolis, but it's going on all around the nation. There's a lot of storylines that can come out of this incident that we're experiencing. I went to bed in shock. I woke up in shock. And the truth be told, every good-hearted citizen that hears these stories has to be shocked, has to be amazed, have to think about what is going on in America, what is going on, and what can we do to stop this senseless shootings. Everyone that has a conscience is asking a question, what do we do? And we must realize that the shock waves are going all over. There are some people that don't know what to do. When you have in every city, in our city, they now have what is called a permitless carry. That, you don't have to have a permit to carry a gun anymore. The problem that we have is not a political problem. It's not a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican problem. We have a major healthcare problem that transcends politics. That transcends that. And everybody's scratching their head on what to do. I am so grateful for Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon that said that we needed to do something globally to bring about an awareness of the violence that is plaguing this country. I'm thankful for you, Reverend Oliver. You had my wife on a few weeks ago, and we got to start the conversation, the real conversation. All the experience I have, all the background I have, we must start the conversation and keep the conversation going. And we must come up with not only what went wrong and the problems, but we must come up with solutions. And I'm a firm believer that there is something that every one of us can do. Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, known as the Mother of Peace, and when she started the Peace Rally, and the slogan was, "Let there be peace, and let it begin with me." We must continue a dialogue like that when it comes down to the families. We got to be able to reach each person, everyone on this Zoom call knows some teenager, knows somebody in your church, in your community, in your workplace that is suffering. Our young people are suffering in silence. So we must be able to let the conversation continue, not just one person at a time, just like Mother Moon said, let there be peace and let it begin with me. You know, begin the conversation one family at a time. My wife talked about the healthy families in the nation, how she was able to go into families and address the whole family. I work with the prosecutor office in Indianapolis, Indiana. I work with the Metropolitan Police Department, and I work with the court system. And the wonderful thing about the court system is it's called First Offenders Program. And when a teenager at the age of 13, 14, or 15, when they first get in trouble, that judge would order them to get some counseling, not just the 13 or 14-year-old, but he would order the whole family to get counseling. That is one way that we could get into the home. When I was years ago, I was a Title I social worker in middle school. And I was kind of like the truant officer. And the wonderful thing about it is that I had to get out of my office and go to the homes and see why the youth wasn't attending school. It gave me an opportunity to address the whole family. And when you have an opportunity to address the whole family, and then you can make some leeway. And not only that, we had to put together a plan that will reconstruct the family dynamics. Our families are in crisis. You must agree that our families are in crisis. Not just the young people that you see shooting, but the whole family is in crisis. Many times, and we know the number of single parent homes that we have here, and not just single parent homes, but there's a large percentage of homes that are single parents and single fathers. And whenever you can get a chance to go in and create a plan that can address the whole household, and then you are beginning to rebuild the family. The family is in crisis. And if you can figure out a way to get to the young people, that is called intervention. And then you have to create what is happening now, what is called prevention. Right now, as we talk, there could be a young person right now, as we talk, that feel like they're not loved, that feel like that they're not wanted, that feel like nobody cares about them. You have to build a relationship up with the young people before you can create a plan. So sometimes we have to go into the home and invite the whole family out to dinner, to a football game, to a baseball game, so that they can build the trust. No one's going to talk to you unless they trust you. Again, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if we want to help in this society that we live in, we've got to be willing to get out into the community, out into the neighborhood, and we have to begin to rebuild the family. I contend that everybody that is born into this world have a natural desire to be loved, liked, respected, accepted, rewarded, appreciated, and stroked. And every young people feel neglected. They feel like nobody cares. And so they are suffering in silence. When I was raising my kids, I found out at an early age that my kids act up and they act out. We have a society of young people that are acting up or acting out. They are crying out for attention. They are crying out for somebody to embrace them, to really love them. It's one thing they know is if you really care. One thing they will find out very soon is if you really love them, if you really appreciate them. Sometimes they want to hear you're doing a good job. We are overwhelmed with bad news every day. You turn on the evening news. We're now conditioned to look for who's shooting now, who got killed today. I thank God for organizations like the UPF and the CARP and the young people, okay? We need to now accentuate the positive things that young people are doing and start praising them for what they are doing right instead of finding out what they're doing wrong. As the young man said in Washington, D.C., and he said, you know what? They don't care. But what he was really saying is what we care about, they don't care about. They do care, but what we think is not always what they think. We've got to build a relationship up with the young people and let them know that we care. Not only that, our organizations, I work with the job prison reentry. We work with the different community partners, the prosecutor's office. We have a mental health providers at our facility. We provide job training for those that have not making it in traditional high school environments. We've got to be able to provide them instant money. You know what young people want? They want money. They want to be able to buy their own clothes. They want to be able to buy their own shoes. So we have to create an environment and a culture that can put them back to work, and they don't want to have to chase that dollar illegally. Some of the mothers that are raising their young people, some of the young people are out in the streets, and the mother know they're doing wrong. And the first thing they tell a young man when the father is not in the house, the young man, you know what? You are the father of the house. You're the man of the house. Sometimes that could be one of the biggest mistakes that you can make. And then the young man get out there and he start bringing money home, and the mother receives the money and know the young boy ain't got no job. And what she's doing, she's condoning his behavior. We've got to watch that. Back when I was growing up, and I know we always hear this, when I was your age, I had a job at the age of 8 years old and 14 years old. And I was making my own money. We had Job Corps. We had the NYC program. We had programs job training programs. I worked for a job training program, and I was able to make my own money. And so we don't have that anymore. So one of the things that we provide for young people is instant employment. And they can be in our program for 120 days. And they get job training, and they can get leads on other jobs. They have a way to make their own money. So we've got to rethink on how we address the young people in our society, in our communities, and in our homes. We got to be able to listen to learn. When you lose the young person and you stop communicating with them, you don't know what they're doing in your basement. Where are they getting the guns? You got to continue to have constant dialogue with the young people in your home and your community, what I call your okois, your circle. They don't have to be your son or your daughter or your grandson or your granddaughter. They could be the young man that work at the grocery store. He could be the young man that cuts grass. You got to create a dialogue and trust with them. And what we have at our organization is a day that we call Listen to Learn. Listen to learn. When a young person is talking to you, believe me, they'll tell you what's going on with them. And you never want to break that trust with them. You want to keep that trust. There's a language that young people have. I would dare to try to say some of the words that they say, but there's a language they have. And we got to learn their language. We got to learn to build trust with them and talk their language. When I'm at work, and sometimes I don't have the suit on, I don't have the tie on. Sometimes I have a backward cap on, and I'm teaching a class, and I'm talking their language. Some of you would be shocked if you heard some of the words I say to young people. But that's the only language they understand. I'll never forget working in middle school. and I was the guidance counselor. When the young people would get in trouble, instead of sending them home, they would send them to my class. It's called the Guidance Learning Center. And I would have over 20 young people in the Guidance Learning Center. Many of them were from broken homes. At that time, we called them at-risk youth. And they were in my facility. They were in my classroom. And I had to shut the door. And because of what I had to come to learn as a young adult, being that my mom died when I was 8 years old, my father left, and I was raised by a single grandmother. And I had every excuse to be an at-risk child. And then I had to learn that I could not begin to walk and live in society on that crutch of, oh, me. Nobody knows my story. And I had to come to grips with my own story and not make excuses for my behavior. And so I learned at an early age that we have to take away the crutch. But we have to understand that many of our young people have been disconnected with their parents, their father, their mother, their grandmother. They have been disconnected. Some of them are in prison. Some of them are on drugs. Some of them are doing illegal things. They have been disconnected, and they live in an excuse. So in the Guidance Learning Center, I will close the door, and I will build relationship and communication with them. And then somehow, some way, I had to kick the crutch off from up under them. And I had to let them know that I understand the pain that you're feeling. I understand the lack of love that you are experiencing. I care, and I'll tell them my story. And then I'll let them know you are not responsible for the condition that you're born into. But I got a news flash for you, young man, young woman. You are responsible to change it. Every individual must hear the hard love story. That you didn't ask to be here, you didn't ask to be born, but now you're here, and now you got to make the best out of it. You're not responsible for the condition that you're born into, but you are responsible to change it. And then you must provide the tools that they need. Even Jesus on the Mount, before he ministered to the multitude, before he fed over 5,000 with a little boy's lunch, he fed them first, and then he ministered to them. We've got to be able to know what their needs are, and we got to be willing to meet them where they are and give them the tools on how to survive. If not, we're going to continue to have a culture of people that continues to act up and act out. So what are the tools that they need? They need to know that you love them. They need to know that you care about them. You need to let them know that you're willing to help them out, whatever the need may be. You may not be able to, as Paul and Peter and John said, silver and gold have we none. But as such as we have, I give unto thee. You may not have silver and gold. You may not have money to give them, but you have some knowledge, you have some love, you have some wisdom, you have some fruit to give them. You may not be able to give them something, but there are some tools, and you got to find out what those tools are. You know, there are so many agencies in our community right now that give food away. There are so many agencies in our community that give clothes away, that give shoes away. So find out, you got to give them the tools. You got to be able to meet them where they are at. Again, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The agencies that we have, I call it strengthening the things that remain. If you can get a hold and become a part of an agency that's doing something positive in the community, hook your wagon up with them. Help them reach out to the other young people. Volunteer your time at the community centers. Volunteer your time in the school system. School's about ready to start back. Some has already went back to school. Get involved in somebody's life. As Mother Moon said, you know, let there be peace and let it begin with me. You can, it's called one, reach one, teach one. It only takes one person to reach another person. Reach one and teach one. Okay. And if you can do something, you can contribute back to building our community, building our families up. You know, with all the accolades we have, we may have a lot of accolades and accomplishments. And a lot of times we had already been through what our young people is going through. They don't need to hear your story all the time, but they need to know that if I went through it and I made it, you can make it too. Again, there's so much can be taken out of what we're suffering now in our community. My wife was speaking about the triggers and the trauma that we're experiencing on a daily basis. And when she was telling about healthy families, she expressed how important it is to bring about an awareness that we understand, an awareness of where we're at in our community. And then she talked about providing education. Okay, those are tools that you can use to let them know you don't have to go down this path alone. Education, to let them know if you don't have your high school diploma, here where you can get it at. If you don't have a dad in your life, go to Boys Club. Here's somebody I want to hook you up with. Education. And then she talked about empowerment. Some people feel hopeless. It's not just young people. We have a lot of adults that are hurting. We have a 11% recidivism rate among adult men and women when they come through our program. So men and women and the adults are hurting as well. So we're helping change their lives around by providing instant jobs and training. So now we want to empower them to go back into the community and now help out in the community by reaching one and giving them the tools to let them know where resources are at. A lot of people, you'll be surprised of how many families that do not know that there are resources available for them. They don't have to go out and sell drugs. They don't have to go out and try to rob somebody to get money. The teenagers don't have to feel like nobody cares. These are tools. There are agencies out here that really care about people. But that's a form of empowering the community, empowering them. Let them know that there's a better way. There's a better way of living every day, and that there is hope. Young people feel like there is no hope. And so I wonder what goes through the mind of a young person that thinks the only way that they can get some attention is, and we heard the saying once before, and we heard it all the time, that hurt people hurt people. Think about it. Think about it. All the anger that can be built up in a young person to the way they want to go out and shoot somebody for no reason. For no reason, they are hurting. I'll say it again. They are hurting. And the language that we must be able to interpret is when they resist you, they are not really resisting you, they are crying out. And you scratching your head is, I don't know what's going through your head and why you do this. If you want to interpret that, they're saying, I need somebody to love me. I need somebody to care about me. I need somebody to give me some attention. I need somebody to like me. I need somebody to appreciate me. I need somebody to say, good job. I told my daughter when she went to school and she acted out at school, and I keep telling her, don't do this and don't do that. And she felt like she was being a goody two-shoe. And she said, Daddy, when I go out to school, I'm the one that have to say no to drugs. I'm the one that have to say no to peer pressure. And I get tired of saying no and people thinking I'm a goody two-shoe. So what she did, she was acting out. And I had to interpret that as saying, I need to appreciate you more. I need to say, good job that you made the honor roll. I need to say, good job that you do get up and go to school. You need to say to your young people about the positive things that they're doing. You'll see their eyes light up when you begin to recognize what they are doing and not criticizing what they're not doing. And if you try that, you will see that that young person will gravitate to you more when you recognize the positive things that they're doing. And what we have to do is counter what the news is saying by accentuate the positive things that are happening in our community instead of focusing up on the negative. There are so many things I can say, Reverend Oliver, but I don't know how much time I have. But there's so many storylines out of what's happening here in the city of Indianapolis. There's so many storylines of this very shocking mass shooting that we are experiencing here in our city that I can go on and talk about these storylines, from permitless carrying to a 22-year-old pulling his gun out, shooting the shooter. I could go on, but I will yield my time, and I will thank the listeners for listening. I can be reached at kalexander@recycleforce.org, and you can put your name in the chat if you want more information on how to address some of the ills that we have in our community. My wife is always available, Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander, and myself, and I know many people on this call, as yourself, Reverend Oliver, is interested in finding conversations and ways that we can address the violence in our nation, in our city, and in our communities, and in our homes. God bless you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Reverend Alexander. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. It's really powerful. You and your wife are just a power couple. Just wonderful. I'm sitting here and I feel almost God's tears, what we're going to do, because I think the underlining theme is that the world is full of lack of love. And love is one of the most powerful. It is the most powerful force in the universe. And no matter how tough these kids act and how rough and how belligerent their mouths are, when you go in deeper inside, you realize they're just crying out for the lack of love they have not received. Many times that lack of love is generational. And I think we need to discuss the generational lack of love that has been passed on to the point of explosion, and almost as of a pandemic. And as we were discussing in previous webinars, the demographics are different from different areas, and why some children may act out in violence, So we have to look at demographics as well, and to address that, the problem that you think. Reverend Rouse sent this, the other night. You would just, I'm here. I'm glad I'm not, hearing all the news. Sometimes it's just depressing, right? So Memphis faith leader, Atura Eason Williams shot and killed during her, a carjacking. And she was a faith leader. She was a community leader. A carjacking. A beautiful face. Her life was snuffed out. I mean, it's a pandemic that's going on. So I want to thank you very much for that. And I think these conversations are I believe they're going to be effective, because we need to come together and collaborate. As I keep saying, collaboratively bring our gifts and together. We need to get on the road. Like VJ Smith, we need to get on the road, do a national tour, a national, alternative voice of what needs to be done, because those kids are not hearing anything. So that's why you maybe have been successful in closing those doors and listening to those kids, because nobody ever closed the door to listen to them before. So there's a very beautiful theme, listen to learn. I would like to spotlight Alan Saunders, Glovinia Williams, and Dr. Madeline Alexander. If we can bring them on. I would like to hear from each one addressing this whole lack of love. I know I put her on the spot. Glovinia Williams, if you would like to come on, and we'd love to hear from you. Alan Saunders, please. Let's spotlight him, because when you were talking, Alan Saunders, his major mission, lifelong mission is dealing with family values and character education, which is so lacking in our community and so underused, if you will. And that always leads back to family, as you discussed, the breakdown in family. But we have to also look at generationally what's going on specifically in African-American community, Hispanic communities, and then our other communities, the white communities, they have different issues and problems that causes them to act out in certain ways, but all leads down the road of lack of love. Dr. Alan Saunders, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Oliver. Thank you, Reverend Alexander, Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander. I worked in the urban areas of Paterson, New Jersey for over 12 years. I've worked throughout Africa and the Caribbean, Pacific, primarily with African descendants. And what I see is a lack of positive male role models. And I think somehow that has to be addressed, because from my teaching in the schools up there in Jersey, the challenge always seemed to be there was a lot of really good women, good mothers, good grandmothers, but the only guys, apart from a few coaches or youth pastors or pastors themselves, they were the only positive male role models. So I think that's one of the major missing links that we need to look at. So how have you in your work been able to highlight and raise up those positive male role models?
Oh, if that question is to me, thank you. Thank you, Brother Alan Saunders. One of the things that we have in the city of Indianapolis is called 100 Black Males. It's an organization that goes into the school system, and because the school system is where you'll see an imbalance of people that look like me, and we'll go in the school system and become a presence in the school system to let them know that there are some successful African-American Black males. And then, and with the 100 Black Men, they also mentor them. They have after-school programs. I created and it actually came from the 21st Century Scholars Program, where we'll go and create tutoring and mentoring sessions after school, because this is where some of the problems begin to happen is after school. And we'll have a forum to where African-American males, and not just two African-American males, even though there was they were called 100 Black males, it was for all cultures. Because there was a lacking of males, period, in the school system. And we wanted to let them know that they could still go to college, still go to school, get their education, and they could feel some of the voice that you have in the school system with a lack of role models that they had. And just to be a presence in the school system was impactful to so many people, so many young people in the schools, that there are Black men that are doing positive things. And despite what you hear on the news, and despite what you hear in your own community, there are people that are police officers, they're firefighters, they're attorneys. They've seen all this. And so if you can't do anything, and we also have what is called 10-Point Coalition in our city. I was very involved with the 10-Point Coalition in the city of Indianapolis. They would meet at I had a clothing store, and every evening they would meet at my clothing store to get ready to go out and walk the neighborhoods. A bunch of African-American men and women, just showing that somebody cares. So if I answer that question, we have to show up. If I was to put it in a few words, we have to show up.
Thank you very much for that. Before I ask Dr. Madeline to address that, one thing that I did want to say too, in regards to, thank you, Alan, for that question and that statement that you made, is that I also like to hold responsible the media. I was discussing with some other people, the media chooses what they want. and they compound negative images to these communities. You know, if you look at these guys who are looking for love, drug boys, I was just discussing with someone the other day, all these drug boys, they were doing things, naughty things out there. Who are their idols? Claude Montana. All of the 1920 gangsters. You know, that's the image that they keep inundating those communities.
Yeah, it's true. It's, in the media, they say if it bleeds, it leads. So
exactly. So, you know, there's not Black men who are doing great things is not an anomaly. It's a fact.
You're right. And unfortunately, it's never highlighted.
Yeah, it's not highlighted. And I think we need to hold the media accountable, because even though, you know, our brother, Bill Cosby, you know, however his situation is, but let's leave that behind. Yeah, he was showing an intact family. And we need to do a research of how those kids, because everybody was watching Bill Cosby show, and how that affected a lot of our community kids. You see, so how many shows are there about intact Black families when there are hundreds and thousands of intact Black families that are in America? So I wanted to drop that on Dr. Madeline.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Reverend Oliver, and thank you as well, Alan Saunders. As my husband has so eloquently stated, the children want to be loved. We talk about, as adults, we talk about having tools and, you know, giving tools. Well, what's in our toolbox? Our toolbox come with experience. These kids are learning as they go. We had a conversation, my husband and I had a conversation a couple evenings ago in reference to the role that government play, society play. Remember when discipline was taken out of the home? That's what has caused a portion of this epidemic. The discipline was taken out of the home where the parent couldn't discipline their children. Now, I'm not saying to beat your child or to be abusive, but we all know to spare the rod is to spoil the child. So in this process, society has created a situation, and now the weight is on the parent's shoulders. So as we move forward, our conversations have to begin with the parents, bringing our tools. So what's an acronym for tools? The T standing for being transparent and being able to teach. The O stand for being observant. And the next O is to be able to oblige what we hear and to receive what we hear. Be active listeners in the process. Again, the L, listen to learn and apply love to that situation. So when we're talking about the kids, again, where are the guns coming from? Where are the boundaries? The school has a responsibility, but it all starts at home. What goes on inside those four walls? Is the parents, again, the weight on the parent is so heavy because yes, we have those negative instances where it might be a single parent home and it could be a father or a mother. We have those intact families, but at the same token, what's going on inside those four walls? The average African-American family is living off of a system of survival. They're trying to survive. They're going to work. For those that are going to work, they're going to work to provide for their families. Then you have a completely different aspect where the parent and the child has become best friends and they're doing the same thing. So where's the boundaries? So as we're on the outside looking in and we're hearing these horrific stories, the stories that we're hearing, yes, we get drive-bys. Yes, we get robberies. Yes, we get carjacks. Yes, you know, all over the world, young people are shooting. Is that giving them some type of power? Is that giving them some type of identity? So again, I'll say the young people are in an identity crisis. It's one thing for the immature child to be in an identity crisis, but how many adults are trying to lead these children that are having identity crisis? So to be able to come together, to bring a plan together, to be able to work together is huge. We're starting this conversation, and as we come together collectively and come up with whether it's a manual, whether it's a affirmation, we have to go into the community to show that love, to show that concern, to show that whoever is in position working with the youth, you're not alone. So I answered your question, Reverend Oliver.
Yeah, you did. And I think, and I wanted before I asked Dr. Alexander, Reverend Kenneth Alexander, to give some closing remarks. I would like to address the African-American community and American community. In reality, we're one community, American community. Therefore, if there's a lack of love going to the African-American community, any other community, it's not only the African-Americans not giving that love, it is the nation as a whole not giving that love, you see. And so we have to begin to look at this from a national scope. That's why the last time I kept dropping off. But what I wanted to say, that everybody on here, we're all responsible for the love, the lack of love from any community, because we are a national, we're one family unto God, if you're one nation unto God. But we're all human beings. We understand that all the causes of any kind of problems that are arising, when you go to the root cause, is because of a lack of love, stemming from some sort of family breakdown, even white family, all families. You know, when you go real deep, it's about the family, you see. And so we're a big family, we're a bigger family. So the Black community is not only a family within itself, it is a family of America. And we need to, start looking at that from that perspective. Dr. Reverend Kenneth Alexander, do you have any closing remarks as we get ready to close?
Yes, thank you, everybody on the call. I see my good friend, William Stoner. I see also my spiritual dad, Dr. David Carlson. I see my sister, Nadia Fisher. So many, I don't want to start calling names, but thank you, Reverend Oliver, for this forum. It's much needed. And thanks to my lovely wife, Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander, and thanks to Alan Saunders for your comments and question. Just want to highlight that one of the things we need to do is, we can't do all things, but there's some things we can do. Each one, reach one. And I said before, we have to be able to show up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud.
Okay, it seems as though my screen may have frozen. But if I would have some parting words, is I think we have to be willing to get out into the community and begin to build relationships, one home at a time, one family at a time. And as I said, we have to be willing to show up and let the young people know it's not just young people problem. I also want to emphasize that we need early childhood development as a form of intervention and to stop the bleeding. And then we need to do some intervention with the young people. And then we need to also empower the community at large to let them know that there is hope and there is help and that there is love that conquers a multitude of sins. But we got to do the work. God bless you. Thanks again for having me as a speaker. And I hope it was something I said that can enlighten somebody.
Thank you, Reverend Alexander. I think you said a lot. I mean, one of the the underlying thing was the lack of love, you know, and then how do our responsibility is how do we get that love? And you shared so many points where there is an avenue that we all can play a role in allowing these kids to be loved by its greater community.
Dave, I lost my battery.
But we still hear you. And so I just want to thank everyone for, you know, coming on. This is, I believe, fruitful. Like I keep saying, that this is not just a talk, but hearing great things, but how we can begin to implement those things. And I reach out to all brothers and sisters on here. We all have to take responsibility and seeing what we all need to do to give that love, curb that love, and to bring those kids back to their original self. All the kids that are out there, all those shooters are in pain. I like what Dr. Reverend Alexander said. You know, if someone's hurting someone, actually they're hurting. That's a very powerful statement. And we have to really look at why they're hurting. So I want to thank everyone as we come to the conclusion. I want to thank Dr. Madeline. She's always just a champion, and you can listen to her husband. They're just champions. We love you. You guys are doing incredible things. And I look forward to when I get back that we can begin to address those things. As I said in conclusion, many of these problems are generational, and how we can break that what it will call maybe a generation of a curse in order to bring our children, as his topic was really bringing our kids back on track. And if there's a God, there's a way. Thank you very much. God bless you. And thank you all for coming on.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Next week. Yes.
See you next week.
Okay.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Right,
God bless you.
Hello. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
God
Thank
bless.
you very much. It's
Thank you,
very
Reverend Alexander.
All right. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Wow.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's very good. Everybody has their unique angle, but our responsibility is to put them together and go out on the road, and so the kids can hear that voice. That's the point. They're not hearing the voice. Thank you.
And Reverend Oliver, real quick, I want to say this: be kind. Sometimes I'm in the store, and if there's a single mom and she's struggling, I see her like counting her money and putting out change. Be a blessing. Be a blessing, and let her walk away knowing that she's not alone. Sometimes it's just the small thing. But we can sow those seeds. Remember, some plant, some water, God gives the increase. So there's all kinds of things that we can do to make ourselves available.
That's powerful. That is true. You never know one word of kindness, how it can reverberate in the long run in somebody's life. Yes. Wow. Thank you for that. All right, everyone. God bless you.
All right.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Take care.
Nadia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless.
God
God
bless
bless
Take good care of Africa, Reverend Al.
I do my best.
Thank
Where are
so
you in
much.
Africa?
We're very proud of you, my brother.
Thank you.
Where?
God
Where
bless
in
you.
Africa?
Zambia.
Oh, you're in Zambia now?
Yes.
That was my missionary country. I spent almost 4 years there.
Ah,
Yes.
Yeah, your name was mentioned, Ms. Mark Bafford. Your name was mentioned the other day.
All right. Thank you.
All right. God bless.
God
Yeah.
bless.
yeah.
God bless you.
Reverend Oliver, like the kids, bring me something back.
Okay, you got it.
Mr. Alexander, thank you for all your hard
Yeah,
work.
you-
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Informative.
Love you all.
God
Love you all.
bless everyone.
God bless you.
Everyone.